What is up, NASCAR fans? You're watching the Nitro Series on the HSL Diecast Racing channel. And today we have a special treat for you, the qualifying drag races for the 24 Laps of Lemans Stock Edition. Our drivers might be jet lagged from flying across an ocean, but who cares? They're going to get to qualifying today, starting with our points leader, William, next to Sterling Marlin, the highest ranked field filler from last season's flea market cars. Because with Lord Shank joining the fray for the stock series, there is an odd number of full-time drivers now. And there's no surprise here, William is flying by Sterling Marlin, 2 car length lead before they even get to the fat track. But look at Sterling Marlin, he is closing the gap surprisingly. It's not even a car length by the time he crosses the line. You have Sterling Marlin there not giving up without a fight. That is an epic lap for sure. And up next is Johnson Jr., your all-time wins leader in the NASCAR Nitro Series history. Matched up alongside Sawyer from Uncle Elvis Racing, that is Williams' teammate. And he has about a half a car length lead heading into the final section of the track. And looks like Sawyer's going to get by him. Sawyer leads that lap. That's the first upset of the day. He will move on to the winner's section. And now it is Tristan Racewelski versus Lord Shank. I got a car for Tristan on Lord Shank's channel. And Tristan has his own channel too, the Ramp Racing Series. He comments on my videos. Check his channel out. And Lord Shank's car from the flea market, because this was intended to be a field filler, beats the 68 car by quite the margin, 2 car lengths plus. And up next, it is Jimbo Rockford and Joker. Joker back in the 04 car after Lex Luthor attempted to qualify for Texas with it and DNF'd in the second chance race. There won't be a second chance race for the mods this week because the field fillers for that race are going to be the stocks, at least the top 6 finishers. The 24 Hours of Le Mans in real life mixes the classes, so we're going to do that on this channel for Le Mans and possibly other races later on if you guys like that idea. And besides, this track is a straight line, so take that as you will. And up next is Crazy Ruby and End Count, 2 evenly matched cars despite the points disparity. That is due to Crazy Ruby's DNFs during the segment racing in both of the first 2 races. And Crazy Ruby is actually beating End Count. She's ahead of him by a whole car length heading into the final section of the track and throws a last-second block to get into the winner's bracket. And up next, it is Skeeter Davis and Vinny Oonts Nightlife. And Skeeter Davis for Po' Boy Racing has been one of the most entertaining drivers in the stock series so far this year, and he is beating Vinny pretty handily as they head onto the fat track and cuts a block in front of Vinny in case he gets any last-minute burst of speed. And it looks like Vinny might have partied too hard down the backstretch. He will have to race his way in against field fillers and start in the back alongside them even if he does get in. And up next is Rowan for Uncle Elvis Racing alongside Morgan Shepherd for Mark Russell Racing. And Rowan jumps off to an immediate half a car length lead. They are still on the ramp and Rowan is increasing his lead over Morgan Shepherd. Has a full car length lead by the time they hit the fat track and now cuts a block. Now he's looking to be the latest in a string of upsets in these qualifying rounds, as the early race El Recos at Texas put a lot of good cars in the bottom of the points to start off the season. They're trying to claw their way back. And Nessa Force for the Barora Bangers is no exception. Her teammate and likely relative somehow, Gale Force, won at Texas. And boy, is she opening up a huge lead over Terry Labonte, who's sustained a little bit of axle damage at his home track. Hasn't lost so much speed that he struggles to finish the laps, but he's definitely a step off of his teammate. And now we have Baby Richie and Gator McCluskey. And the gates are down. We're getting close to the middle of the points, and Gator McCluskey has been plagued by bad luck all year. He wrecked while leading his segment in the Daytona 500 on the very last lap. And holy cow, he opens up a 3 or 4 car length lead before they even get to the split track, and it just keeps getting bigger. Baby Richie caught up a little bit, but it is going to be Gator to the winner's bracket. And we have Baby Richie's teammate, Normal Richie, in the number 44. And Violet in the number 43. And Violet's car weighs about 3 times as much as Richie's car does, and she gets a decent jump off the start, but Richie is keeping it a really close contest as they head to the bottom of the ramp, and now Richie opens up a car length lead or so as they go into the fat track. And Violet lost a little time there at the end due to some rubbing from the fender wells, and Richie opens up a lead in the final stretch. He'll be moving on to the winner's bracket. And up next, we have Pantone for Sloppy Bear Racing and Clyde for Uncle Elvis Racing. I'm sure that Clyde's got a chip on his shoulder here watching his twin brother build a decent points lead while he was stuck in the seconds and thirds races. And boy, is he taking it out on Pantone. He is putting it all on the line, and Looks like he left the start gate in third gear already. That's a full track segment or more ahead, and he will be joining his brother in the winner's bracket. And up next, we have two Puffs Racing teammates. We have Regular Isaac and Riot Isaac. Riot Isaac's in the 43, Regular Isaac's in the 42. And these cars are identical castings, identical builds. They are going to be close when they race against each other, but it looks like Regular Isaac gets a bit of an advantage over his teammate. That's about a 2-car length lead as they head into the fat track, and it's just getting bigger and bigger from here. Starting in the outside lane, Normal Isaac races his way into the winner's bracket. And for our final race in the first round of qualifying, we have Coffee Tart for Cut Rock Creek Racing and Rusty Wallace for HSL Motorsports. And they are keeping it close, only about a half a car length between the two of them on the ramp, and Coffee Tart is pulling away as they go onto the fat track. Coffee Tart gets a little unsteady, throws a block on Rusty Wallace. The slope front of Rusty Wallace tries to plow underneath Coffee Tart and almost hangs her to dry on the guardrail, but she has too much momentum, barely crosses the line in front of him. And we're going to show you this again on the replay. Coffee Tart just slides along the guardrail the whole length of the track despite Rusty Wallace's best efforts to knock her off onto the outfield and cause a DNF. That is one hell of an effort by Coffee Tart to get locked into the front half of the field. And up next, it's the field fillers. We have our familiar driver, Kaz Gralla, won a race last season. Beats Kevin Harvick there. And Ricky Rudd didn't win a race, but looked pretty fast, and that other car DNFs. And here we have Michael Waltrip. He was doing interviews at the end of the season. Jeff Gordon and Robert Sled, and Jeff Gordon gets left behind in the dust, doesn't even finish. And we have the Intimidator and Swervin' Irvin, and Swervin' Irvin takes it at the last second. And up next is Neil Bonnet taking over for Morgan Shepherd there. He locks himself in. Martin Truex Jr. and Bill Elliott. And Martin Truex Jr. wins. Darrell Waltrip making his channel debut in a race. And does he make it in? Yes, he does. And up next is Carrot Top and Greg Biffle. Greg Biffle wins that one. Jeff Burton and Kenny Irwin Jr. Looks like it's a pretty close one, and Kenny Irwin takes it. And up next, it's Davey Allison and Professor Plutonium, and the Professor takes that one. And finally, we have Mohawk and Wood Button. Mohawk takes that one, and Wood Button doesn't even finish. Now we have the second round of the losing drivers bracket. It's pretty surprising to see both of these guys in here. They're in the top 10 in points. End count is in the top 5. Two of the better drivers on the circuit, and Morgan Shepherd gets about a bumper length lead heading out of the gate, and it is a very tight race heading into the fat track. End count catches up, tries to hit Morgan Shepherd, tries to force him to make a mistake, but Morgan Shepherd throws a block, and Morgan Shepherd gets to go 1-1, start ahead of some of these other drivers. And up next, we have Johnson Jr., the all-time Nitro Series wins leader, versus the Joker, splitting that ride with Lex Luthor, and this one's not even a contest. And Johnson Jr. has a track length lead before they even get off of the split track, and he's going to continue to build his lead to 2+ track lengths. An incredible blowout win by Johnson Jr. And up next, it's Johnson Jr.'s teammate Tristan Racewelski, both of them in the top 5 in points. It's kind of a shocker to see them in the losing drivers bracket so early. Up against Violet, the heaviest stock, and much like Johnson Jr., Tristan is making quick work of Violet. Opens up his lead to a track segment plus, but gets a little squirrely transitioning to the fat track. Hits the wall a couple times, and that 66-gram Trail Dragger's deceptive closing speed almost takes him out. And up next, we have two NASCAR Hall of Famers. The number 94 of Texas Terry Labonte and the number 2 of Rusty Wallace. And the gates are down, and Labonte's keeping it close with Wallace, who has a half a car length lead coming out of the ramp, and he expands it to a full car length by the time they get to the fat track, and he pulls away after getting onto the fat track. Rusty still has a 2-3 car length lead, and Terry to the back of the field. And due to the odd numbers that we have, End Count is going to race Pantone, as End Count is the highest ranked 2-time loser in points so far. This could be a good chance for him to get himself into the 1-win bracket for the draws. And he's got a full track length lead over Pantone, but he gets squirrely, bounces off the wall, and that is an El Reco for End Count. He holds up Pantone. That's not going to count as a win for him either. They will both be starting near the back. And for the next segment, we have Puffs Racing number 42, Baby Richie, and for Puffs Racing number 43, Riot Isaac. We've had quite a bit of Puff versus Puff racing so far in this qualifying session, and it looks like Baby Richie's going to have the edge over his teammate. About 2.5 car lengths as they head into the split track, and they're staying pretty steady. Baby Richie will take this one. And now it is time for the winner's bracket. Now we have Morgan Shepherd making yet another appearance. That is because he is the highest ranked driver in points. That won a race in the losing driver's bracket. He'll be facing our points leader, William, who gets to race for the pole. The winner of this race gets to be part of the pole race, which will be set by points. The guys, the 2-time winners, a full segment race to determine starting spots 1 through 7, and that's because we have an odd number here. Trying out some new methods to set the field. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section. Right now, it's Jimbo Rockford and Sawyer, and Jimbo has about a car length lead before heading into the fat track, and Sawyer catches up, and that's an El Recco for Jimbo Rockford. Jimbo Rockford hits the wall, somehow driving in a straight line and ends up on his roof. And up next, we have Lord Shank versus Skeeter Davis. And the gates are down. Skeeter Davis has about a bumper length lead heading out of the gate. Lord Shank in a car that's not even meant for full-time competition, keeping it pretty competitive. It looks like Skeeter Davis catches some air heading into the fat track. Leave it to Skeeter Davis to have some highlight reel plays. That does get him loose, though, and it looks like the showboating is going to cost him this time. Lord Shank in a car that some kid probably once kept outside overnight in a sandbox is going to be racing for the pole against the big boys. And now it's time for Rowan and Richie. And Rowan shoots out to an early lead, 2.5 car lengths before they even get to the fat track. And there's some trouble for Rowan. That is an El Recco. All Richie's got to do is cross the finish line there, and he'll be racing for the pole. And up next is Crazy Ruby, one of the unluckiest drivers in the series. Has a fast car but DNF both races, as well as Clyde, the other McDonald's twin, looking to catch up to his twin brother in the point standings. And this one's been violent since they took to the fat tracks. They are slamming into each other. I got a little too loose right there, and Crazy Ruby's going to take this one. And now it's Crazy Ruby's teammate Coffee Tart versus Nessa Force of the Barora Bangers. Both of these cars were sent in from Australia, and both of them are evenly matched here heading down the ramp. They're side by side. Nobody's giving anybody an inch here. And this one's already looking like one for the ages if this continues into the fat track. But Nessa Force gets way too aggressive, gets loose, spins out Coffee Tart at the last second, and I don't think Coffee Tart's even going to finish this one. There's going to be a whole lot of underdogs fighting for the pole. And last but certainly not least, Gator McCluskey and Isaac, the last of the winner's bracket before we get to the race for the pole. And Gator McCluskey jumps off to an early lead, car length or 2 right at the start. As they get to the bottom of the ramp, Gator McCluskey now has a 4-car length lead, almost a whole track segment. Gator McCluskey gets loose. Did you see what Gator McCluskey just did? Isaac bins, but who cares about that? Gator McCluskey flips over, does a 360-degree flip, and goes on to win the race. I'm going to play this again a couple of times in slow motion. That is insane what just happened out there on the track. You see him get loose coming out of the fat track, completely somersaults, does not even miss a beat, continues in a straight line, and leads that lap. Some of the most insane driving I've ever seen on this channel. Dang, just absolutely incredible. And now it's time for the race for the pole. This is set by points. The stocks here will have a race for the pole because it's an odd number, and then the mods will have a single elimination tournament bracket for the pole. I'll let you guys decide in the comments what you like better for Martinsville. William gets a great push from Gator McCluskey, who just had that highlight reel flip, almost loses it again, manages to recover and hold on for, well, last place now. He got pushed off the track by Richie, and he'll be lining up next to William for the final lap. A lot of positions shuffled on that lap. Crazy Ruby and Nessa Force, Lord Shank and Sawyer, and finally Gator McCluskey after getting pushed off the track, and Crazy Ruby is drafting on the back of Isaac. And William can't do much about it despite having a significant weight advantage. It looks like Crazy Ruby's going to take second place away from William, and Richie will be your pole sitter. An aggressive move by Lord Shank backfires, and here are the playing card drawings for the 1-1 cars that won in the first round, and then the 1-1 cars that lost in the first round. You may see some cars without cards. That's because they wrecked in their second qualifying race. The Joker's going to have a bad start. Here's the field fillers that won their round. And finally, the last chance qualifiers. Vinny Nightlife has to beat all these field fillers that lost their first race. Not the most stable car. He crashed driving in a straight line, the only one to do that in his opening qualifying lap. And here you see the party magic in action. He's got almost a track segment lead before he even gets to the fat track. He is running away with this as long as he doesn't make another boneheaded mistake, which has characterized his season so far. He leads one lap. He'll need to lead another to get back into the race. And now it's time for lap 2. He'll be lining up next to Jeff Burton. We want to have 43 stocks in every race from here on out, so the top 3 of these drivers will get in. Vinny Nightlife gets a good push from Dale Earnhardt, not trying to intimidate him, just trying to bump draft off him and get himself into the race. And Dale Earnhardt having such a slow car this season's kind of a crime. I'll remedy this in the off-season, but as of right now, it is good enough to get Dale Earnhardt Sr. into his first ever attempt at the NASCAR Nitro Series. Jeff Burton beats out whoever I said earlier is driving the 49. That car's pretty slow. It might be the only time you see it on this channel. Now it's time for Reed Sorensen go up against Dale Earnhardt Jr., Bill Elliott, Davey Allison, Kevin Harvick in the 4-car. It's actually a pretty tight pack this first lap. Dale Jr. tries to take the pass on the outside, but Sorensen throws a clutch block there. He's going to rely on the other 4 cars, the gravity, to push him across the finish line first, and it works. Dale Jr. takes second. They're both in a good spot. The 92 title contenders in the back here right now. They're going to need some good luck. A wreck by one of the front runners to try and get into the race. And the gates are down. Reed Sorensen gets a good push from Harvick. That's a pretty heavy casting that Kevin Harvick has, at least compared to these Lionel and Winter Circle castings. And Kevin Harvick is going to bump draft Reed Sorensen past everybody else, but Dale Jr. is not giving up a fight. That car is feisty for being a field filler from the flea market with rubber tires, and he is going to take second place away from Harvick. They're going to get into the show. And here is your final starting lineup. Richie has the pole for Puffs Racing. Crazy Ruby and Sawyer, a couple of underdogs. Have the McDonald twins on the front row. Morgan Shepherd's on the front row. Gator McCluskey and Jimbo Rockford will be entertaining. 43 cars, the biggest stock race ever, the stock standard for the rest of the season. Hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. We'll see you on the track.